In our last video, we learned about the PowerBI forecasting tools, and in this video, we're going to talk about hierarchies. Right now, I'm loading in the same data set that we've been working with, which is the Superstore data set, and I've brought in the orders table, which I went through a little bit quicker this time because we've done this a few times now. Also, I'll go ahead and give my report page a meaningful name. Now let's go over to the data pane right here, and I'm going to just expand it a little bit because we're going to take a look at a native hierarchy feature that PowerBI gives you automatically if you have a date in your data set. So if you have a date type of data column, it will make a date hierarchy for you automatically. So here we have year, quarter, month, and day. So we can use each of these fields, which kind of rolls up into the order date, and this is a hierarchy. So this little symbol here is also a hierarchy. This allows us to drill down into different features. So let's take a look at what I mean by that. I'll select order date, and I'll select profit with that. It gives me a table right away, but I would like maybe a column chart, so let's take a look when I do that. So I have this is the wrong type of column that I selected, the one that's out of percentage, so I want to actually select the stacked column chart, and that way it will help me quantify the sum of profit. Really quick, we'll want to make sure that profit is set to a currency format. So again, when you select it over here in the data pane, it takes you to the column tools ribbon, and you can set a currency format here. And you can also choose the amount of decimals you would like or other useful aspects. So now we have a currency just there. But specifically because we have a hierarchy, this gives us drill down capabilities. And I'm resizing my graph because you can see that right now the drill down fields are here, but they may also be at the top. So now that I have more of my space taken up, they're a little higher. So let's take a look at the drill down. We can drill down one level, and so now we see year and quarter. When we're looking at profit over here, we're seeing basically quarter one of 2010 was not profitable. The other 3 quarters in 2010 were profitable. A similar pattern in 2011. And then it looks like in 2012 and 2013, we turned a profit all of the quarters. We can also drill down another layer here, and we can take a look at the months. So if we were looking within that unprofitable quarter one of 2010, we can see that it's mainly attributed to March. If we wanted to look even further, we could take a look, and we can even view the day. So if we were looking down in March to see what happened that month and maybe investigate that, we might want to look at March 28th and March 10th. They seem to be a little bit of outliers in terms of them being extremely unprofitable. So I'm going to drill back up again to the top level, and that gives you an idea of how drill down is useful when you're looking at data and telling stories with data. In this particular use case, we only have one table, only the orders table. You may be using PowerBI, and you may be pulling from multiple different tables, and they might be quite large data sets, and each one of them might have its own date field, where in the background it's making your DAX query a little bit more cumbersome, and so it is a good practice to make a manual date hierarchy and use that with your tables rather than the built-in one. That's not really necessary in this case since we only have one table, but as you're working and getting more advanced, when you're less of a beginner and more of an intermediate user, you might want to learn how to do that. Today we're going to learn how to make a custom hierarchy, but we're going to leave the date one intact since we're only working within one table. We're going to make a hierarchy based upon product category. One important thing to note is when you do make a custom hierarchy, you have to start at the largest level. So for example, with a date, a year is the largest level here. If we had decade, that would be larger than year in theory, right? We usually don't see that in data sets, but I'm just giving an example of what might be larger. If we did have decade, we would start there. So we go year, and then quarter is smaller than year, but it's larger than a month. And then next we have month, which is smaller than a quarter, but it's larger than day. And finally, day would be the lowest unit in this hierarchy. So let's make a custom hierarchy. And we want to do it based upon product category. And if you look at the data, you've noticed we have product category, and we also have product subcategory, which seems like a natural hierarchy structure. So let's go to the higher of those levels, which would be product category. And there's 3 little dots over here. So when we click on that, we can create a hierarchy right here. So I click that, and then you'll see this little hierarchy symbol. It's the same as the one up here for the date hierarchy, is now located here on the product category hierarchy. So great. What we need to do now is add the product subcategory to the product category hierarchy, and very similarly, we click on the 3 dots that show more options, and then this time, instead of create hierarchy, we can click to add to hierarchy, where we have our product category here. And now, when we expand product category hierarchy, we see that we have product category and then product subcategory underneath. So we want to use this in our chart now so we can drill down, so that we can examine our data, maybe investigate outliers, or whatever the use case might be. So let's remove order date from the x-axis and replace it with product category hierarchy. We can see that the drill down and drill up functions are working for us. But what I think would be a little bit nicer, because some of these bars are very close to the break-even line, the 0 line here. So I would like to see these sorted. So let's go to the three dots here in the upper corner of the visualization, or depending on how you're sized or your screen, it might be somewhere else, but it will be with your hierarchy drill downs. And then here we can sort the axis, and I want to sort by sum of profit. Now we can see it's very clear here that tables within the furniture was very unprofitable. We can see that each category is profitable, but certain categories or certain product subcategories are not profitable. But also, since some are very close to the break-even line, it might be nice to apply a conditional formatting so that we could see which ones were below 0. So if we want to do that, we would need our chart selected, and we can go into the visualizations pane. And we are going to go down to the columns, since that's where the color column is nested. And instead of selecting just a broad color to apply to either a category or everything, we're going to go into the function, and here's where we can do some conditionals. So we have the default here is gradient, but for this we're going to select rule, and we're going to use the sum of profit, and that's okay. We're going to select a color, and I'd like it to be maybe a nice red type of color to represent the negative number. But we can see it's in a range here, and I can see what my data looks like over here. So in order to set this up, we're going to create a very large negative number so that we can capture negative values on the lower end of the range. So if I type my negative sign and maybe just give it a bunch of 9s, change it from percent to number, and then we can go into the less than, and we can leave that at less than 0. that looks good, so we'll click OK. And now if we hover over, we can see what our negative values are, and these ones that are close together, it's very easy to tell which one is just above the line and which one is just below the line. I'm just gonna change the title. So now we've been able to drill up. We can see that each category is profitable and that some subcategories are unprofitable. We might want to next think about which products should we discontinue because they're just not profitable. So if we look over into our data, we can see that we have product name. We also have product container. That has to do with shipping, but if you weren't sure, you could go to the table view and you can take a look at the values in there. You can tell it's due to shipping. And we have our product category and our product subcategory, and then we can see that there are quite a number of names within each product subcategory. But let's go ahead and add this to the hierarchy, because then we can drill down another level and we can see exactly which products are not profitable. So to do that, we'll go back over to the data pane and the three little dots next to product category. We'll add this to the hierarchy, and since we're still going from the highest level to the lowest level, we can add this. So I'll go ahead and add that, and now we have it. So let's go ahead and check, and we'll include that, and we can go ahead and drill down even further. I'm just going to make my canvas a little bit larger so I can see more of this. There we go. Alright, so I can see that now I have a scroll bar, because since there's so many different products and it gets very close to the line here, we can see exactly which ones are not profitable and we can see which ones we are. So what we're really most interested in, I think, here is the ones that are largely unprofitable. Maybe some of these ones close to the line could go either way, and offering more of a product line, maybe our customers like that for variety. So, but we would want to look at these over here and just see which ones they are. So if I hover over, I can see the tooltip, and we have the product name. We could see how much money was lost. It was unprofitable, and we can view each of these. Continuing on my analysis, I might be curious to see these by category now that it's quite clear that we have the group of least profitable items here. So let's add product category to the legend. And with our legend up here, we remember that furniture was the least profitable category, and tables in there within furniture was the least profitable subcategory. So you might be surprised to see that some of our most least profitable items are actually in the technology category. So this gives us a product level view after we've set up our hierarchy, so we can just drill down. Sometimes we might think that, oh, probably the least profitable agree with, the previous level. That's not always the case. So it's nice to look at it this way as well. And let's take a look on the other end of the spectrum, which there's so much it's hard to get over there. This chart is very large and not easy to use, so it wouldn't really be the greatest one for visualization, but when you're, well, maybe for a dashboard rather, but for a visualization it's good because you can see it in this way. So let's take a look. Is this actually furniture? Our highest profitable item is actually furniture, so that is also contrary to what we might have thought it would be if we didn't drill down in this hierarchy and look at data at different levels. So that is how you can make a custom hierarchy and a little bit about hierarchies in Power BI.